Have you ever wondered why some people rise from nothing while others stay stuck no matter how hard they try? Why one man turns a single idea into freedom, while another man spends his whole life chasing money that slips through his fingers like sand? Daniel never asked these questions until life forced him to. Because the truth is, you don't realize you're trapped until the walls around you begin to close in. Daniel wasn't lazy. In fact, he worked harder than most people he knew. Long nights, early mornings, double shifts, extra tasks. He did it all. But no matter how many hours he worked, his bank account always looked the same. Empty, stressed, surviving. It was like life had placed an invisible ceiling above him. A ceiling he kept hitting again and again. So many times that he started to believe that maybe this was his fate. Maybe poverty wasn't the situation. Maybe it was destiny. But destiny changes the moment you open your eyes. It happened on a Thursday evening. Daniel was coming home from work, exhausted, frustrated, defeated. As he walked past a quiet cafe, he heard someone laughing loudly, an old, warm laugh, the kind that only comes from a person who is free. Inside was an elderly man sitting alone, reading a book, smiling at the world like he owned every second of it. Daniel almost ignored him. But something about that man pulled him inside, like fate had arranged this meeting. He bought a cheap tea and sat across from him. The old man glanced up, smiled, and said, "Son, you look like someone carrying a mountain on your back." Daniel forced a smile. "Just tired, so." "Tired?" The old man chuckled. "No, you're drowning, and you don't even realize it." Daniel froze. Somehow, the stranger saw straight through him. Before Daniel could reply, the man placed his book down gently and said, "Tell me, why do you work?" Daniel hesitated. "Because I have to survive." "And that," the man said, "is exactly why you're still poor." The words hit Daniel like ice water. He didn't know whether to be offended or curious. But the man continued before Daniel could speak. "Listen carefully, son. Poor people work for money. Rich people make money work for them. And the moment you understand the difference, you will never be poor again." Daniel leaned forward, completely hooked. "What do you mean?" "It means," the old man whispered, "that you are trapped in a cycle. You sell your time you can never get back. And as long as you depend on trading hours for income, life will keep you running like a hamster on a wheel, working hard, but going nowhere." Daniel felt those words sinking into his bones, because deep inside, he knew it was true. He had been running in circles for years. "But how do I escape?" he asked. The old man smiled again, the kind of smile that comes from someone who already knows the ending of a story. "First, you must understand a secret. A secret the rich guard. Not because they are selfish, but because most people don't want to hear it." Daniel swallowed. "What secret?" "That wealth," the man said, "is never owned. It is built, brick by brick, habit by habit, mindset by mindset. You're poor not because you lack money, but because you lack the habits that create money." Daniel felt something shifting inside him, an awakening, a tremor, a spark. The man pointed to Daniel's chest. "Your poverty didn't start in your wallet. It started in your mind." Daniel looked down, suddenly feeling the weight of his life pressing on him. All the years of struggle, all the years of anxiety, all the years of telling himself, "This is just how life is." Suddenly, it all made sense. The old man continued, his voice calm but powerful. "Let me tell you the truth. The rich aren't smarter than you. They are not luckier. They simply do one thing differently. Every day, they take small steps that build long-term freedom. They plant seeds. And while everyone else is chasing money, they are building systems that make money chase them." Daniel listened as if each word was oxygen. "You want to change your life?" the man asked. Daniel nodded slowly. "Then stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like a builder." Daniel frowned lightly. "A builder?" "Yes," the man said softly. "A builder of habits, a builder of knowledge, a builder of assets, a builder of value. Because wealth doesn't come from what you do once. It comes from what you do consistently." The cafe suddenly felt quiet, almost sacred. The man leaned closer and said, "Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you invested in yourself?" When was the last time you learned a skill that makes money even while you sleep? When was the last time you created something, anything, that could grow without you? Daniel lowered his gaze. The answer was painful. Never. He had spent his entire life working, but never building. And for the first time, he realized he wasn't poor because life was unfair. He was poor because he was stuck in the wrong game. The old man watched him carefully. Son, I see potential in you, more than you see in yourself. But potential is useless without direction. So listen to me carefully. Wealth is a consequence, not a goal. It is a result of discipline, of learning, of resilience, of becoming the kind of person who can handle abundance. Daniel felt a lump in his throat. He didn't expect this conversation to break him open like this. He felt exposed, vulnerable, but also hopeful for the first time in years. The man took a sip of his drink and said, "From today onward, stop asking, 'How much can I earn?' Instead ask, 'What can I build?' Because the moment you build something valuable, money will find its way to you." Daniel sat there silently, letting every word carve its place inside him. He could feel his old identity, fearful, frustrated, hopeless, beginning to crack. Something new was pushing through, a hunger he hadn't felt in years. The old man stood up slowly and placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Your life can change," he whispered, "but only if you change first." Daniel looked up, eyes filled with a new fire. "What should I do now?" The man smiled again. "Part 2 of the secret," he said softly, "is not something I can tell you in words. It's something I will show you. Come tomorrow. Same cafe, same time, and come prepared to unlearn everything." Then he walked away, leaving Daniel staring at the empty chair, feeling like his entire life had just been reset. That night, for the first time in years, Daniel didn't fall asleep tired. He fell asleep awakened, and he had no idea that tomorrow everything would change. Daniel woke up the next morning with a feeling he hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. Not excitement, not joy, purpose. A quiet fire burning in his chest. Something inside him knew that yesterday wasn't just a random conversation. It was a turning point, a moment life gives only when you're ready to receive it. He got dressed, left home early, and walked toward the cafe long before the sun had taken over the sky. For once, he wasn't rushing because life was chasing him. He was moving with intention. And that single shift, acting instead of reacting, already felt different. He reached the cafe and sat at the same table. Minutes passed. Daniel tapped his fingers nervously. What if the old man didn't show? What if yesterday was just a moment of luck, a coincidence? But then the door opened, and the familiar warm laugh echoed again. The old man walked in, holding a small leather notebook. "Good," he said as he approached Daniel. "You're early. That tells me you're ready." "I am," Daniel replied. The man sat down and placed the leather notebook gently on the table. "Yesterday," he said, "you learned the first secret the rich don't tell you, that wealth is built, not owned. Today, I'm going to give you something even more powerful." Daniel leaned forward, waiting. The man tapped the notebook. "Inside this book is a second secret. But before I show you, I need to break something inside you, a belief you hold tightly, a belief that has kept you poor your entire life." Daniel's heartbeat picked up. "Tell me, Daniel, what is money?" Daniel blinked, confused. "Money? It's currency, something you need to survive." The man shook his head slowly. "No, that's the lie. Money is not a need. Money is not survival. Money is a consequence." "A consequence of what?" Daniel asked. "A consequence," the man said, "of value. Money flows to value the same way water flows downhill. You spent your life chasing money when you should have been creating value." Daniel felt that truth hit deep. All his life, he measured his worth in hours worked. He never thought about value. He never asked what he could create that others needed. The old man opened the notebook. Inside were 3 words: skills, systems, service. "These," he said, "are the pillars that separate the rich from everyone else. And until you master them, you will always struggle." Daniel stared at the words like they were a foreign language. "Let's start with the first one," the old man said. "Skills." He looked directly into Daniel's eyes. Skills are something you build, slowly, painfully, but permanently. A skill is a tool that gives you power to create value. The poor avoid learning because it feels slow. The rich embrace learning because they know it compounds. Daniel swallowed. He never invested time in learning anything beyond survival. He realized how small his world had been. What skill do I need? Daniel asked quietly. The old man smiled. The skill that solves a problem. It doesn't matter what you learn: communication, business, investing, storytelling, coding, design, sales, anything that creates value. Pick one and grow it, because your skill is a seed, and a seed doesn't become a tree overnight. Daniel nodded slowly, absorbing every word. The old man continued. Now the second pillar, systems. He leaned back, his voice steady and wise. You know why you're exhausted, Daniel? Because your life is built on effort, not systems. You do everything manually. You repeat tasks. You restart every day from zero. That is why you stay stuck. But what's a system? Daniel asked. A system, the man said, is something you build once that works for you forever. The rich create systems, businesses, investments, content, platforms, ideas that continue producing value even when they are sleeping. You don't get rich by working harder. You get rich by building something that works even when you're not. Daniel felt something unlock in his mind. All his life, he believed that success came from effort. But effort alone was a trap disguised as hard work. And the third pillar, the man said softly, is service. Service? Daniel asked. Yes, the old man said. Service is the heart of wealth. You get paid in direct proportion to the number of lives you improve. The poor think money comes from demand. The rich know money comes from service. Daniel lowered his gaze. He had never thought about helping others. He was always too focused on his own survival. The man continued. The more people you help, the more money you attract. The rich ask one question every day. How can I serve? How can I solve? How can I help? And that question builds empires. Daniel felt humbled. Wealth wasn't greed. Wealth was contribution. The old man closed the notebook. Now, he said, let me tell you the one thing that will change your life more than anything. Daniel braced himself. In this world, poor people wait for opportunities. Rich people create them. And the moment you stop waiting, you will never be poor again. Daniel felt frozen. Something inside him began to rise. Courage, determination, hunger. But how do I create opportunities? Daniel whispered. The man smiled. You begin. You start where you are, with what you have, and you keep going even when it's uncomfortable. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they lack patience. Wealth grows slowly, then all at once. Daniel felt his heart pounding. The man continued. Now tell me something, Daniel. For the last 10 years, what have you built? Daniel felt his chest tighten. The answer hurt. Nothing, he admitted. The old man nodded. Good. Honesty is a beginning. Now tell me, what do you want to build? Daniel thought for a long moment. He wasn't sure. He had no plan, no direction, just a desire to change. But the old man didn't need a perfect answer. He just needed the truth. I want to build a life I don't need a vacation from, Daniel said softly. I want freedom. I want peace. The old man's eyes glowed with approval. Then listen to me carefully, he said. Freedom begins the day you decide to stop renting your hours and start building your future. Daniel nodded, feeling the words sink deeper than anything he'd ever heard. The old man stood up. Now go home. And today, you will choose your first skill. And once you choose, you will dedicate 30 minutes every single day to improving it. No excuses, no breaks, no negotiations. Daniel swallowed. Every day. Every day, the man said, because consistency beats talent every time. The old man began walking away, but stopped at the door. Oh, and Daniel, he said without turning around, tomorrow is part 3, and that lesson will change the way you look at money forever. Then he left. Daniel sat silently, the notebook still open in front of him. Skills, systems, service. For the first time in his life, he saw the road to freedom clearly. It wasn't easy. It wasn't quick, but it was real. And he promised himself he would walk it, no matter how long it took. If he stayed consistent, he would never be poor again. Daniel barely slept that night. Not because he was stressed, but because something new had awakened inside him. For the first time in years, his mind wasn't drowning in fear. It was alive with possibility. His thoughts moved differently, slower, sharper, more intentional. And that small shift was already transforming him from the inside. At sunrise, Daniel sat on the edge of his bed, the old man's notebook open across his lap. 3 words stayed back at him like they were alive. Skills, systems, service. He traced them gently with his finger, as if memorizing the shape of his new destiny. Today, he had to choose a skill. It felt overwhelming at first. The world was full of possibilities. He could learn anything: communication, design, business, sales, marketing, editing, coding. Daniel wasn't used to choosing for himself. He always followed instructions, followed rules, followed survival. But today, he wasn't choosing what was safe. He was choosing what made him feel alive. He got his answer in the most unexpected way. As he brewed coffee, he remembered something he had ignored for years, a childhood memory. When he was young, Daniel loved writing. He loved stories. He loved describing moments with detail no one else noticed. But as he grew older, life pulled him away from that part of himself. There was no money in passion, only danger. But now, he didn't think about danger. He thought about value. He whispered under his breath, "Maybe I could learn storytelling again." Not as a hobby, as a skill, as a craft, as a tool. His heart tightened. It felt right. It felt like him. Daniel opened his laptop and searched for storytelling basics, copywriting, communication skill building. He wasn't studying to pass a test. He was studying to transform his life. For 30 minutes, then an hour, then another. And with every minute, his confidence grew, not because he was good, but because he was finally becoming someone who built. Later that afternoon, he walked back to the cafe. Same time, same table, same nervous energy. But this time, he felt more prepared. When the old man arrived, he carried a lighter expression, as if he already sensed Daniel had done his homework. "Good," he said as he sat down. "You look different." "I chose my skill," Daniel said. "Excellent. What is it?" "Storytelling." The man smiled gently. "A powerful choice. Stories build businesses. Stories move people. Stories create trust. With that skill, you can influence minds, change hearts, and build value anywhere." Daniel felt a wave of pride, not because the old man approved, but because this time he had chosen for himself. "Now," the old man said, folding his hands on the table, "today you learn the final secret, the one the rich guard more fiercely than anything else, the one that separates those who rise from those who spend their entire lives wondering why they never did." Daniel's stomach tightened. The man leaned forward and spoke quietly, almost like a whisper meant only for his soul. "The rich don't make money. They position themselves where money flows." Daniel blinked, confused. "Position?" "Yes," the man said, "because money is like the wind. It moves in predictable patterns. If you stand in the wrong place, you'll never feel it. But if you stand in the right place, you cannot avoid it." Daniel frowned slightly. "I don't understand." "That's okay," the man said softly. "Let me explain. You've been trying to earn money by working harder. But wealth doesn't follow effort. Wealth follows positioning. The rich place themselves in front of value streams. They put themselves where opportunity naturally flows. Do you know why they invest? Why they learn skills early? Why they build networks, create platforms, study trends?" Daniel shook his head. "Because they know that when the world changes, money moves. And they want to be standing where it lands." The words hit Daniel with surprising force. "Your problem," the man continued, "is not that you're untalented. It's that you've been standing in the wrong place your entire life. You've been standing in jobs that go nowhere, environments that don't grow, circles that don't rise. You've been surviving, not positioning. Daniel swallowed hard. He couldn't deny the truth. He had never placed himself where he could grow. Everything he ever did was a reaction to scarcity, not a move toward opportunity. The old man took out the notebook again and wrote something new. 4 circles. He labeled them. Survival, comfort, growth, opportunity. Most people, he said, pointing to the first 2 circles, spend their lives here. Survival or comfort. They work just enough to stay alive, or they earn just enough to feel safe. But the rich live in the last 2 circles, growth and opportunity, because where you stand determines what you see, and what you see determines what you can build. Daniel stared at the circles, feeling his heart thumping against his ribs. He had lived in the survival circle his entire life. That single realization was painful, but freeing. The old man continued, "Now listen carefully, because this is a lesson that will free you from poverty forever." He lowered his voice. Money doesn't come to the man who needs it. It comes to the man who becomes valuable enough to deserve it. The words felt like they cracked open something inside Daniel, a truth he had avoided for too long. The old man tapped the notebook gently. "This is why you're learning a skill. This is why you will build systems. This is why you will serve. Because the version of you who is poor today is not the version of you who will be wealthy tomorrow." Daniel listened silently as the man continued. "You cannot become rich with a mindset that made you poor. You cannot attract wealth with the habits built on fear. You cannot change your life until you change yourself." Daniel felt the pressure in his chest, like something old was dying and something new was being born. The man leaned back and took a deep breath. "Now let me tell you the final truth," he said. "The secret the rich never say out loud." He paused for a moment. "The rich don't chase money. The rich chase leverage." Daniel whispered, "Leverage?" "Yes," the man said. "Leverage is a multiplier, the engine, the force that makes money grow exponentially. Without leverage, you trade time for money. With leverage, you trade ideas for money, and ideas don't get tired." He listed softly. Leverage of skill, leverage of network, leverage of systems, leverage of content, leverage of patience. "These," he said, "are the tools of wealth." Wealth was not luck. Wealth was structure. Wealth was layers. Wealth was built like a staircase, and for the first time, Daniel saw the first step. The old man stood up slowly. "Our lessons are complete," he said gently, "but your journey is just beginning." Daniel felt panic rise. "Wait! So, what do I do now?" "You build," the man replied. "Every day, a little. Every day, a step. Every day, progress. And one day, you won't recognize your life." Daniel stood too. "Will I see you again?" The man smiled faintly. "When you no longer need me." Daniel opened his mouth to speak, but the old man raised a hand softly. "Remember this, Daniel. Wealth is not about money. Wealth is the freedom to become who you were always capable of being." His future felt new. He wasn't rich yet. He wasn't successful yet. He wasn't skilled yet. But he had the one thing he never had before: direction. He whispered to himself, "I will never be poor again, because I will never stop growing again." And with that promise, Daniel began the first day of the rest of his life.